My mother was hit and killed by a large truck while trying to pick up a 1 yuan coin. On the first anniversary of her passing, she appeared in a dream to my father, Miller. I have no money to spend down here, take out the 8,000 yuan from the savings account. The next day, while my father was withdrawing the money, he suddenly suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and died on the spot. My brother and I painfully arranged the funeral. And that night, my brother also dreamed of our mother, Charles. I have nothing to rely on over here. Could you melt your wife's gold bracelet into gold ingots and burn them for me? My brother immediately searched for my sister-in-law's jewelry and crouched in the yard, lighting a fire to melt the gold. Just before dawn, he collapsed beside the fire and stopped breathing. I held my young nephew and huddled inside the house, and that night, my mother's voice echoed in my ears, "Sweetie, my life over here is so shabby that I don't even have a decent burial offering. Your brother's few gold ingots aren't enough to make a proper showing. Burn Tom's longevity lock for me." I quickly entrusted my nephew to a close friend and went to burn paper offerings at my mother's grave, but the next day, my nephew still went missing. By the time I found him, he was already dead. The longevity lock around his neck had vanished without a trace, in a daze. I was struck and sent flying by an out-of-control truck. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the morning my father went out to withdraw money with the passbook in hand. "Sweetie, I'm going to the bank to get some money, I'll be back soon." Before I could even process the shock of being reborn, I saw my father putting on his coat, ready to leave. "Dad, you can't go out today," I roared and charged over, gripping his arm tightly. My father stumbled from my pull, unable to help but furrow his brow. "What's wrong with you today? Your mother visited me in a dream last night, saying she has no money to spend down there, and asked me to withdraw that 8,000 yuan and exchange it to burn for her. She's been frugal all her life. She shouldn't have to live a hard life down there either." I snatched the passbook from my dad's hand. "No, you can't go today. The pain of losing my dad in my previous life is still vivid in my mind. And I will never make the same mistake again." Seeing my resolute expression, my dad's face instantly darkened, his eyes filled with disappointment. "Julia Miller, your mother loved you the most while she was alive, always giving you the best food and clothes. Now, with just this one wish of hers, you want to stand in the way. How could I have given birth to a daughter like you?" Looking at my father's disappointed eyes, I didn't dare tell him the truth. After all, the idea of rebirth is too fantastical. He already has high blood pressure and can't handle any shocks. Seeing his resolute determination to go out, I gritted my teeth and adopted a firm tone. "Dad, Mom also visited me in a dream last night." My father paused, looking at me with suspicion. "She said she was worried about your high blood pressure and feared something might happen to you on the way. She specifically told me to take you to the hospital for a checkup today." I stared into his eyes, speaking each word with unwavering certainty. "Mom said that once the test results come out and confirm you're fine, it won't be too late to go get the money." My dad used to listen to my mom the most, otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed to withdraw money just because of a dream. Seeing that he was still hesitating, I continued to press the advantage. "Dad, or are you saying you won't even listen to Mom anymore?" Hearing this, my dad immediately retorted, "How is that possible? I'm just wondering how your mom could send dreams to both of us in one night." I guiltily touched my nose. "She's just worried about your health. Did you take your blood pressure medication today?" My dad slapped his forehead. "I ran out of blood pressure medication and forgot to buy more." Hearing this, I roughly understood how the accident in my previous life had happened. Without a second thought, I changed my shoes and took him to the hospital. At the hospital, all the examinations went smoothly. The one who examined my father was my good friend Sarah. She held the report and said that aside from high blood pressure, all my father's other indicators were normal, advising him to take his medication on time and get plenty of rest. She brought me several more boxes of blood pressure medication and reminded my dad to take them on time. After safely seeing him home, I specifically waited until the time of the accident from my previous life had passed without incident before leaving. Seeing my dad leisurely watering the flowers, my anxious heart finally settled. Who would have thought that early the next morning, I would receive a call from my brother, Julia Miller. "Dad passed away last night." My brother's choked voice came through the phone. My head buzzed, and I couldn't make out what my brother was saying on the phone. Why? I had clearly prevented all of this, but Dad still died. I rushed home in a hurry. As soon as I entered the door, I saw my brother lying in front of my father's bed, silently crying. My father's face still bore the lingering bluish-purple marks, exactly the same as when he had a cerebral hemorrhage in his previous life. "Where are the blood pressure pills?" did Dad take the medicine I bought yesterday? My brother suddenly looked up, his eyes red and filled with confusion. He did. I watched him take it with my own eyes yesterday. The medicine box is still on the table. I stumbled into the living room and indeed saw the opened medicine box on the coffee table. One slot in the blister pack was empty, and next to it sat a half-drunk glass of cold water. But Dad's medical report clearly stated that aside from high blood pressure, there were no other issues. How could something have happened if he took his medicine on time? Bro, did Dad say anything before the accident? My brother was stunned for a moment before he snapped back to reality. Dad said Mom visited him in a dream. After taking his medicine yesterday, he went out again and came back looking quite happy. My heart sank. Could it be that he went to burn paper money for my mom again? I quickly went to check my dad's coat and, sure enough, found an unburned piece of spirit money inside. Why didn't he listen to me? Why did he have to go burn paper money? I cried so hard I nearly fainted, seeing this. My brother was also frightened. He quickly came over to comfort me. Julia Miller, don't be too sad. Dad definitely wouldn't want to see you like this. My brother was right. The medicine was indeed taken, but my father still passed away. Could it really be my mother sending me a dream? The thought had just surfaced when I forcefully pushed it down. My father's death hit me too hard, and it was all thanks to my brother who was busy handling the funeral arrangements. Watching him with red-rimmed eyes as he sorted through Dad's belongings, the image of him collapsing beside the fire in my previous life suddenly flashed into my mind. I suddenly grabbed his wrist. Brother, listen to me. No matter what Mom said to you in the dream, you can't believe it, and you definitely can't do what she told you. My brother winced in pain from my grip, frowning as he pulled his hand back. Have you gone crazy these past few days? Dad just passed away. Even if Mom is sending us a dream, it's because she misses us. What bad intentions could she possibly have? He thought I was overwhelmed with grief and softened his tone to comfort me. I know you're hurting after Dad's passing, but you still have me. I looked at my brother, hesitating to speak. During the first 7 days, I had to keep vigil with my brother. As long as I stayed alert, nothing would go wrong. On the 6th night, I couldn't hold on any longer and dozed off. In my daze, I caught a whiff of something burning. When I opened my eyes, my heart leaped into my throat. My brother was kneeling in a corner of the morning hall, with a fire basin in front of him, throwing something into the flames. Brother, what are you doing? I roared as I rushed over, kicking over the brazier and scattering sparks everywhere. My brother was startled by me. Julia Miller, what's wrong with you all of a sudden? Have you forgotten what I told you? Don't believe in Mom's dreams. Don't burn anything. My brother was taken aback. What's wrong? Dad just passed away. What's the problem with burning some gold ingots for him? I stared at the paper ingots and then checked the brazier again, confirming there were no traces of gold. Only then did my heart settle a little. I'm sorry, brother, I was just scared that he would meet a violent death, just like in my previous life. I changed my words just as they were about to leave my lips. Anyway, promise me that no matter who you dream about, you won't spend real money, and you definitely won't act alone. My brother, unable to shake me off, had no choice but to nod. All right, I promise you, I'll stay with you these next few days. Is that okay? For the next 6 days, my brother indeed didn't leave my side for even a moment, eating and sleeping right under my watchful eyes. Seeing him safe and sound, I gradually let out a sigh of relief. Perhaps I had been too tense. Maybe what happened to Dad was just an accident. But on the 7th day, which was my father's first-week memorial, I went to the kitchen to pour a glass of water, and when I turned back, I found the living room empty. Brother, I called out all over the house, but no one answered. His coat was still there, but he was nowhere to be seen. I rushed out the door like a madman. The small town was only the size of a palm, and I ran to all the places my brother usually went, but there was no sign of him. A sudden sense of dread washed over me. Could it be that my brother really went to the cemetery? With a heavy heart, I made my way to the cemetery. I saw that the fire basin in front of my mother's grave was still burning, the orange flames licking at the half-melted gold foil. Beside the fire basin lay the empty box that had once held my sister-in-law's gold bracelet. My heart sank to the depths in an instant. Just then, the phone suddenly rang. Julia Miller, something happened to your brother. My best friend Sarah told me that my brother had fainted in front of my mother's grave and was taken to the hospital by a passing villager. My heart sank, and I rushed to the hospital. Julia Miller, you finally came. Sarah told me that the doctor examined him for a long time but couldn't find anything wrong. My brother just wouldn't wake up, and no one knew the reason. The image of my brother collapsing by the fire in my previous life overlapped with Sarah's words at this moment. Could it really be my mother coming in a dream to demand his life? The thought had just crossed my mind when I suddenly shuddered. No, the next one to be targeted was Tom. I didn't have time to dwell on my sadness. I pulled myself together and said to Sarah, "Sarah, I'll leave my brother in your care. I still have to go pick up my nephew from kindergarten, not long after my nephew was born. My sister-in-law divorced my brother. All these years, he has been both father and mother to the child. This time, I absolutely cannot let anything happen to my nephew." After giving my best friend instructions, I immediately went to my nephew's kindergarten, but the kindergarten teacher looked at me with a strange expression and said, "Auntie Tom, didn't you already pick Tom up?" But I haven't been to the kindergarten at all today. I felt even more uneasy inside. Thinking back to my previous life when I found my nephew, only his cold body remained, I panicked even more. The front door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and shouted, "Tom, Tom." The living room was empty, with my nephew's toys scattered on the floor and his little shoes still placed by the door, but there was no sign of him. I rushed into the bedroom, the kitchen, and searched every corner of the house, but there was no trace of Tom. An overwhelming fear gripped my throat, making even breathing painful. Dad was gone, my brother was unconscious, and now even Tom was missing. What exactly did I do wrong? Why have I been reborn? Yet still unable to stop all of this, I looked out the window at the deep night and suddenly laughed, tears streaming down my face. Since I can't avoid it, I'll face it head on. I went to my mother's grave. "Mom," my voice was hoarse, trembling with a hint of despair, "Dad listened to you, burned the money for you, and he's gone. My brother listened to you, melted the gold for you, and now he's lying in the hospital, and now, even Tom is gone. What exactly do you want?" That night, I lay on the bed my mother used to sleep in, my entire body cold, in a daze. The old wall clock by the bedside ticked away, each sound clearer than the last. Then, I heard that familiar voice, softly whispering in my ear, "Darling, your mother lived frugally all her life. And it's not easy down there either. Please have pity on your mother and burn more paper money for me." I suddenly opened my eyes, and in the darkness, a blurry figure was standing by my bed. "Darling, I know you're filial, burn more for me, so I can hold my head high down there." I clenched my fists, the hatred and fear accumulated over 2 lifetimes erupting completely in this moment. I threw off the covers and lunged barefoot toward that shadow. "You're not my mother at all. My mother would never have killed her own husband, son, and grandson. What nonsense are you talking?" Her voice suddenly turned sharp. "I just wanted them to burn some money so I could live more comfortably down there. What's wrong with that?" I laughed until tears streamed down my face, my voice trembling uncontrollably. "Just because you were hit by a car while picking up a single coin, you want the whole family to die with you? How can you be so selfish?" Pointing toward the door, I roared, each word dripping with blood and tears. "Dad obeyed your every word. Brother was known far and wide as a filial son, and Tom is only 3 years old. What did he ever do to you? Tell me." The black mist churned even more violently, and a wave of icy cold air rushed toward me, freezing my teeth to chattering. "Money, I want money." She avoided answering, just kept repeating it, her voice carrying a strange greed. "You won't abandon your mother, will you, my dear?" I looked at that dark mist and suddenly laughed. "Fine." I wiped the tears from my face. "You want money, right? I'll burn it for you. Burn a whole room's worth. Burn enough for you to spend in your next life." I turned and walked out with the paper money, my steps quick as if fleeing for my life, yet also as if rushing toward a decisive battle. I knew she was following me, that chilling presence shadowing me like a ghost. The moment the flames leaped up, I heard that voice let out a satisfied sigh beside my ear. The fire grew fiercer, its heat warming my cheeks. "I'm curious to see what method she'll use to take my life this time." Exhausted, I collapsed to the ground, my eyelids growing heavier and heavier as I drifted into a deep, drowsy sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital bed. "Julia Miller, you're finally awake." My best friend Sarah's voice was choked with tears as she rushed over to grab my hand, her eyes red and filled with concern. "You scared me to death. I came to see you yesterday and found you lying in the yard, unresponsive no matter how much I called you. I rushed you to the hospital right away." I opened my mouth, my throat painfully dry, and after a long moment, I managed to squeeze out a sentence. "I dreamed about my mom." Sarah paused for a moment. "Julia Miller, you still haven't let go of that incident, have you?" She was talking about the day my mom got into a car accident. It was my birthday, and my mom had gone out early in the morning to buy groceries, wanting to celebrate for me, but after she left, I heard she ran into the middle of the road to pick up $1, and that's how the accident happened. But I've always been troubled by this matter. If it weren't for celebrating my birthday, perhaps my mother wouldn't have died. But if she wants revenge, she should take it out on me. Why involve innocent people? I looked up at Sarah beside me. Sarah, do you believe in dreams sent by spirits? Sarah looked surprised. Julia Miller, have you been under a lot of mental stress lately? I stared at her for a long moment before gently shaking my head. Before my dad passed away, he dreamed that my mom asked him to burn paper offerings at her grave. My brother had the same dream. Now even Tom has disappeared. If it's not a dream demanding a life, I really can't think of any other reason. Everything happened too coincidentally, as if it were all arranged by fate. Sarah remained silent for a long moment. Julia Miller, although it sounds a bit unbelievable, I believe you. She paused for a moment before continuing. I know a master who specializes in dealing with this kind of thing. 2 years ago, my cousin was haunted by a vengeful spirit, and he was the one who helped resolve it. I'll invite him over right away. That very night, Master James was brought in by Sarah. He looks quite ordinary. As soon as he entered, his gaze swept over the portraits of my parents in the living room before settling on me. Your mother died a violent death. Her spirit lingers in the mortal world, consumed by resentment, and she is doomed. She was stingy her whole life, and even on her deathbed, she was still fixated on a single dollar. After death, her obsession turned into a demon. Determined to drag your entire family underground to accompany her. You're next. What should we do? Sarah was even more anxious than I was, tugging at the master's sleeve and pressing. Master, you must save Julia Miller. Master James stroked his beard and slowly began. To untie the bell, you must tie the bell. To break this calamity, you must fulfill her obsession. Tonight at midnight, set up a ritual for the dead right here in this room. Place all your money on the offering table. Let her take the money and be reborn, and the resentment will naturally dissipate. Spend money to avert disaster. Sarah immediately chimed in, her eyes fixed on me urgently. Julia Miller, what does money matter? As long as you can survive, that's all that counts. I watched her bustling around, setting up the altar. Red candles burned brightly, incense ash fell in a steady stream, and yellow paper piled up half the room. As soon as midnight arrived, the ritual began. Master James treads the stars and paces the dipper, his peachwood sword slicing through the air as he murmurs incantations under his breath. Sarah stands beside me, gripping my arm tightly, her voice trembling. Don't be afraid, it'll be over soon. The yellow paper in the brazier crackles as it burns, the thick smoke stinging the eyes and making it hard to see. Suddenly, a chilling wind sweeps through the room, and the master's expression abruptly changes. I told you to put all the money on the altar, didn't I? Now that some of it is missing, the ghost's resentment has deepened. If this continues, your whole family will die, Sarah anxiously said. Julia Miller, at a time like this, are you still clinging to those worldly possessions? Money can be earned again, but you only have one life. Hurry up and place it on the altar. Maybe the master can still help you. Seeing this scene, I suddenly laughed. The urgency on Sarah's face instantly froze, and she looked at me suspiciously. Julia Miller, what are you laughing at? I slowly turned my head, my gaze fixed directly on her face, and spoke word by word. Sarah, after acting for so long, aren't you tired? A flicker of panic flashed in Sarah's eyes, but she still forced herself to stay calm. Julia Miller, have you gone mad? I understand you've been through a lot lately, so it's easy for you to overthink, but you can't wrong me. I sneered coldly, took out my phone, and played a surveillance video. Yesterday, I went to the kindergarten to pick up Tom but failed, so I asked the principal to retrieve the surveillance footage from that time. In the video, a woman who looked and dressed quite similarly to me was holding Tom's hand as they walked out of the kindergarten. If you don't look closely, you can hardly tell the difference, yet I still recognize the scar on her collarbone. Back when she was in love, she had the initials of her partner's name tattooed on her body. Later, when they broke up, I accompanied her to have the tattoo removed, but it left a mark that could never be erased. Sarah and I grew up together, and we used to love dressing up as each other to play pranks on people. Even our parents were fooled by us, let alone the kindergarten teachers. I was certain that this person was Sarah. Sarah's lips trembled as she continued to argue. I was just worried that Tom wouldn't be taken care of. As a friend, I wanted to help you. Is that wrong? Is that so? Then why didn't you tell me when I went to the kindergarten yesterday? I was just too busy, so I forgot. Her excuse was truly lame. so I pressed on step by step and turned off the switch on the wall. The living room lights went out instantly, leaving only a faint glimmer of moonlight filtering in through the window. The next second, a faint green glow began to emanate from Sarah's body. That was the fluorescent powder I had mixed into the spirit money last night. I deliberately chose the most stubborn kind. Once it gets on you, it takes several washes to get it completely clean. Sarah, weren't you on duty at the hospital yesterday? Why is it such a coincidence that you also have fluorescent powder on you? I couldn't figure it out before. Sarah's shadow was present in all the accidents, yet she remained completely unaffected. It wasn't until yesterday that I realized everything had been orchestrated by her. As her disguise was exposed by me, the gentleness on Sarah's face vanished, replaced by a nearly ferocious resentment. What does it matter if you know? At this point, only your death can keep this secret forever. I looked at her, my face filled with confusion. I don't understand. Aren't we best friends? The master from earlier had already taken advantage of the chaos to run away, leaving only the two of us in the living room. Sarah sneered. Who said we're good friends? Since we were kids, you've always been better than me at everything. Even my parents like you more than me. Why? I can't accept it. Watching you act like a fool, being led around by me. You have no idea how happy it makes me. I frowned. You're truly insane. If you kill me, you won't get away with it either. Sarah looked at me with a strange expression, then burst into laughter. With all the recent troubles in your family, you've been mentally distracted, seeking out a master to exorcise evil spirits. If you accidentally burn to death at home, what does that have to do with me? Looking at Sarah before me, I could hardly recognize her anymore. So from the very beginning, this was your plan. She smiled. What else? You didn't really think I was going to help you, did you? Suddenly, she rushed over and, with lightning speed, pressed an ether-soaked handkerchief firmly over my mouth and nose. Then the candlestick was knocked over. She walked to the door, glanced back at me, and said, Julia Miller, just wait here to die. Just as Sarah pulled open the main door, the police who had been lying in ambush pinned her to the ground. Sarah, you are suspected of intentional homicide. Please come with us. The moment the cold handcuffs snapped around her wrists, Sarah shuddered, the ferocity on her face instantly replaced by terror. She whipped her head around to glare at me. Julia Miller, you set me up. You knew all along, didn't you? Clutching my throat, which ached from the ether fumes, I slowly rose from the floor. From the moment you impersonated me and took Tom away, I knew this wasn't some ghost seeking revenge. It was you pulling the strings all along. I had anticipated she would be driven to desperate measures. So from the moment I recognized her by pulling up the kindergarten surveillance footage, I called the police. I had the police lie in wait outside the door, all for this moment when she would confess her crime with her own words and light the candlestick with her own hands. With both witnesses and evidence in place, there's no use for her to try to deny it anymore. Sarah was escorted out by the police, still screaming hysterically. I can't accept it. Why do you have everything? I just wanted to make your family fall apart. The police car sped away with its siren blaring. I looked at the flickering candle on the ground, bent down, and extinguished it. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, my phone rang. It was the police, informing me that they had found Tom at the location I mentioned. The child had only been drugged and was otherwise unharmed. My heart, which had been hanging in suspense, finally settled. Given another chance, I finally managed to save my nephew. At the same time, another call came in. Are you Ms. Julia Miller? Your brother, Charles Miller, has woken up and is now insisting on seeing you. The double dose of good news nearly brought me to tears of joy, but just as I was about to head out to the hospital, my phone in my pocket suddenly vibrated. It was a text message from an unfamiliar number, containing only a brief sentence. Do you think Sarah is the mastermind? The real nightmare has only just begun. I only glanced at it, and the joy of my brother's recovery quickly overshadowed it. Just a prank. I deleted the text message, tucked my phone away, and rushed to the hospital. In the hospital room, my brother was leaning against the headboard, his face still somewhat pale. Seeing me come in, he forced a weak smile. Julia Miller, you finally made it. The attending doctor followed me in. The patient is fine overall. He's just been given low doses of sleeping pills over a long period, which has slightly affected his central nervous system. He'll recover after stopping the medication and resting for a while. No wonder my brother has been unconscious all this time. It was Sarah who performed the checkup on him before, so it must have been her who tampered with it. The police soon sent word that Sarah had confessed to all the crimes. The police said that she did all of this out of jealousy toward me. Hearing what the police said, my heart felt heavy. Even if Sarah is jealous of me, Would she go to such lengths, turning my family upside down, just for a bit of personal resentment? As a doctor, how could she have such great ability to accurately track everyone's movements, even knowing exactly when my father would go out and when my brother would visit the cemetery? These doubts lingered in my mind like a fog, but seeing my brother gradually recovering in the hospital bed and Tom waiting for me at home, I could only push these thoughts aside. The top priority is to get life back on track. The day my brother was discharged from the hospital, the sun was shining brightly. I never imagined that Sarah, who grew up with us like a real sister, could do such a thing. My brother couldn't help but sigh. I nodded silently, but the unease in my heart grew heavier. That night, after I had coaxed Tom to sleep and just sat down on the sofa to catch my breath, I suddenly heard a faint rustling sound coming from the bedroom. Every hair on my body stood on end. The doors and windows at home were clearly locked, and my brother and Tom were sleeping soundly. Where was this sound coming from? I held my phone, holding my breath as I crept toward the bedroom. Just as I reached the doorway, the scratching sound suddenly stopped, in its place. A familiar, slightly hoarse woman's voice softly rang out, "Sweetie, Mom is down here." So cold, that voice, with the same tone that had haunted me in my previous life, was exactly the same. I froze in place, cold sweat trickling down my back. I suddenly looked up and saw in the full-length mirror on the wardrobe door the reflection of a disheveled figure. She was standing right behind me, slowly raising her head. In the mirror, the face of my long-deceased mother suddenly appeared, Julia Miller. "Julia Miller, wake up." My brother's voice woke me up. I opened my eyes, drenched in cold sweat, and saw my brother anxiously shaking my shoulders. The bedroom was brightly lit, the wardrobe door was tightly shut, and the full-length mirror was so clean it reflected my image clearly. There was no sign of any disheveled figure. "Did you have a nightmare?" You were shouting so loudly that even Tom woke up frightened. My brother handed me a cup of warm water, his eyes filled with concern. I remembered my mother's pale face in the dream, so vivid it didn't feel like an illusion. "Brother, I'm fine," I said, forcing down the shock in my heart and managing a weak smile. "Maybe I've just been too tired lately, under a lot of pressure." My brother frowned. "If you're not feeling well, go to the hospital. Don't push yourself too hard. It's just the two of us left in the family now." I nodded in agreement, but my heart was uneasy. Something's not right, something was very wrong. Sarah has already been captured, so why do I still dream of my mother? Why does the voice in the dream sound exactly the same as the one that demanded my life in my previous existence? Because I've been plagued by nightmares lately. I simply took my annual leave. My mother's pale face kept appearing in my dreams, leaving me unable to sleep all night. Seeing how haggard I looked, my brother took over all the household chores, picking up and dropping off Tom from school every day, and keeping the house in perfect order. One evening, my brother came back holding Tom's hand. The little one was holding a strawberry-flavored lollipop and jumped into my arms, bouncing with joy. "Auntie, look, this is what the teacher rewarded me with." I patted his soft little head. "Our Tom is so amazing." Tom responded in a sweet, childish voice and was coaxed by his brother to go wash his hands for dinner. Everything seemed to be getting back on track, except for me. In the evening, the door was gently pushed open. My brother walked in with a cup of warm milk, his eyes gentle. "Julia Miller, you've been having trouble sleeping lately. Have some milk, it might help." I reached out and took the cup, my fingertips brushing against its warm surface, but I didn't bring it to my lips. "Why aren't you drinking? It'll get cold soon, and then you'll have a stomachache." Seeing me hesitate, my brother couldn't help but urge me on. I looked up, my gaze meeting his directly, and said word by word, "Brother, you dated Sarah, didn't you?" The smile on my brother's face instantly froze, and a flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. "What nonsense are you talking about? We're just ordinary friends." "Ordinary friends," I chuckled softly, placing the milk on the bedside table. My voice was not loud, but every word struck deep. "The tattoo, CM, on her collarbone is actually the abbreviation of your name. Charles Miller, right?" I've never been able to figure out why. Even after Sarah was caught, I'm still haunted by nightmares of my mother every night. What's even more bizarre is that my brother, who lives under the same roof, sleeps soundly without any signs of disturbance. After much thought, the only variable seems to be the warm glass of milk my brother brings me every night. Once suspicion took hold, I started paying closer attention. In the following days, I drank the milk in front of my brother. As soon as he turned and left, I rushed into the bathroom, stuck my fingers down my throat, and vomited the warm milk until nothing was left. Miraculously, that night I slept soundly without a single dream. I tried this for 3 days in a row, and each time it worked. At this moment, I am absolutely certain that all of this is related to my brother. Otherwise, how could an outsider like Sarah know my family's whereabouts so well? How could she precisely grasp the weaknesses of our entire family? The answer is crystal clear. I finally remembered. The tattoo Sarah had removed was CM. The day Sarah got her tattoo removed, she cried and said it was the person she loved most in her life. At the time, I thought it was just some unknown scumbag, but now I realize with a shock that it was the initials of my brother, Charles Miller. That year was the very day my brother and his ex-wife got married under their parents' orders. It turns out, Sarah's obsession was him, and her madness was also him. I pushed the untouched milk aside and looked up at my brother standing by the bed. The smile on my brother's face slowly faded away. After a long while, as if he had finally shed all pretense, his gaze toward me turned extremely cold. Yes, I was indeed with Sarah. My brother lowered his eyes, his tone flat. He said that back then, being with Sarah was just because he saw her as young and naive, easy to control, and not much effort to please. Once the novelty wore off, he grew tired of her and, turning his head, followed his parents' arrangement to marry his ex-sister-in-law, who came from a decent family, but deep down, he was never a settled person. Even after marriage, he remained entangled with Sarah, secretly keeping in touch. Paper can't wrap up fire after all. When my sister-in-law was 7 months pregnant, she discovered their shameful affair. Heartbroken, she gave birth to my niece and then decisively divorced, never returning to this home again. He had kept these sordid matters perfectly hidden. Even I, his own sister, was kept in the dark. But I don't understand. Even if his affair with Sarah was exposed, there was no need to resort to killing his own flesh and blood. His father treated him with all his heart. How could he be so cruel? My brother seemed to see through my thoughts and chuckled softly. I've even killed Mom. Why would I care about you? I looked at him in disbelief. What on earth are you talking about? Wasn't it an accident that my mother was involved in a car crash a year ago? 3 years ago, our house was demolished, and we received a total compensation of 5 million, but I only got a mere 2 million. At the time, my mother saved 1 million from the demolition compensation for her retirement, and the remaining 4 million was to be split equally between my brother and me, with each of us receiving 2 million. This should have been a happy outcome for everyone. But I had no idea that my brother still held a grudge about it. I am the only son of the Miller family, so all this money should be mine. What right does a woman like you have to take 2 million? Because of this, my brother had a huge argument with our mother, demanding that she give back the share of money that belonged to me. Our mother has a strong personality and immediately tore into him, even threatening to cut off their mother-son relationship if he dared to cause any more trouble. Failing to get his way, my brother's resentment took root and grew, eventually brewing into murderous intent, so he deliberately dropped a coin on the path his mother took to buy groceries. The moment she bent down to pick it up, he suddenly pushed her from behind, sending her crashing into the oncoming traffic. The smile on my brother's face grew even wider, as if he were showing off some proud achievement. Are you insane? That's our mother, the one who gave birth to you and raised you. How could you dare? He looked up at me, his eyes seething with years of pent-up resentment. Blame Mom. It's all her fault for always favoring you. Since she won't give it to me, I'll just take it myself. After my brother got his hands on those 2 million, he was immediately lured into making an investment, only to lose everything and end up with nothing, with no way out. He once again set his crooked sights on me and our father. He knew his father listened most to his mother, so he fabricated a dream visitation to trick his father into retrieving the money. The so-called blood pressure medication had long been replaced by ephedrine, which could induce a cerebral hemorrhage. The moment his father took it, his fate was sealed. As for Sarah, she was merely a tool in his hands. He exploited Sarah's jealousy toward me, inciting her to collaborate in a performance, fabricating the lie of a vengeful ghost, and gradually pushing me to the brink of collapse. What he wants is for me to die accidentally. That way, the 1 million in retirement savings left by my mother, along with the 2 million under my name, would all fall into his hands. He has been putting hallucinogens in my food and water. That's why I've been seeing those terrifying images. I thought he could get rid of me without anyone noticing, but I never expected that I would become suspicious of him. Looking at the man with a ferocious expression before me, I only felt unfamiliar and disgusted. He is my own brother, someone connected to me by blood, yet his hands are stained with the blood of his closest kin. My brother stepped closer to me, a greedy glint flashing in his eyes. He reached out to grab my wrist. Sister, don't blame me for being ruthless. blame yourself for standing in the way of my fortune. I took a sudden step back, only to bump into the wardrobe behind me, leaving me with nowhere to retreat. Just then, the door was abruptly pushed open. Tom, standing at the doorway, was looking at his brother with an unfamiliar gaze. "Dad, what are you doing?" Seeing Tom, the ferocity on my brother's face instantly froze, and his eyes momentarily glazed over. But this hesitation lasted only a second before the madness in his eyes surged back, and he lunged toward Tom. I rushed over and clung tightly to his arm. "Are you insane? He's your own flesh and blood. Are you going to kill your own son?" My brother turned his head sharply, his smile terrifyingly deranged. "My own flesh and blood? He's nothing but a burden. Sarah is already pregnant with my child. It's a son. Once you're dead, the Miller family's money, everything the Miller family owns, will belong to me and my son." My entire body turned cold, and I finally understood why Sarah was willing to take the blame for him. Pregnant women can receive lighter sentences for crimes. She was gambling, betting that my brother could get her out, betting that their child could inherit everything. Tom was so frightened by my brother's appearance that he burst into tears, his small body huddled in the corner, trembling as he cried. "Tom, run!" I shouted with all my might, my voice tearing painfully. My brother, eyes red, was about to chase after him. I lunged forward and clung tightly to his leg, enduring the punches and kicks that landed on my back, feeling as if my bones were about to shatter. "Julia Miller, you're asking for death." He kicked me in the chest, but I still held onto him tightly, refusing to let go. Just as I was about to give in, hurried footsteps suddenly echoed in the hallway, accompanied by a loud shout, "Police, don't move." My brother was pinned to the ground by the police in a matter of seconds. I couldn't hold on any longer, my vision went dark, and I fainted. When I woke up again, I was lying in a hospital bed, with Tom leaning over the bedside, gently poking my face with his small hand. The police told me that after my brother was taken to the station, he flatly denied all the crimes, insisting that he had been wronged. I sneered and pulled out my phone from under the pillow. That day, when my brother confessed everything, I quietly pressed the record button. His deranged confession was crystal clear, word for word. Not only that, I also presented evidence that he had replaced his blood pressure medication. His bills also included records of purchasing ephedrine. With irrefutable evidence, my brother could no longer deny anything. He slumped in the interrogation chair and confessed to all his crimes. The police said the case would soon be brought to court, and neither he nor Sarah would escape the punishment of the law. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, the sun was shining brightly. Holding Tom's hand, I stood at the doorstep and saw a familiar figure. It was my former sister-in-law. She had lost some weight, but her eyes were calm, filled with heartache as she looked at Tom. "Julia Miller, I've heard everything. You've been through so much." She looked at her nephew. "I came today to take Tom with me. From now on, I will take good care of him." Tom threw himself into her arms, calling out, "Mom," repeatedly, making everyone's eyes well up with tears. Watching their embracing figures, the heavy stone that had been weighing on my heart finally fell away. After seeing them off, I returned to the empty house, looked at the portraits of my parents on the wall, and tears silently streamed down my face. Everything has settled. I can let go of the past and start a new life. I packed my bags, ready to leave this place full of pain, but while searching for my household registration booklet, I accidentally found an old photo tucked inside. In the photo, my young brother and I were nestled in our mother's arms, and she was smiling gently. But everything can never go back to how it was. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Mom speaks without thinking. After passing the civil service exam, the leader came for a home visit. She said to the leader, "How could you possibly take a liking to this girl? She has no skills, yet she's arrogant and looks down on your unit. She also really likes to steal money. You must help me teach her a good lesson." As a result, I was not selected. I asked my mom if she did it on purpose, but my dad and brother said I was making a big deal out of nothing and didn't know how to care for others. Later, I joined a foreign company, and a leader tried to set me up with someone, but my mom told the guy that I had been dating since elementary school and had a whole crowd of boyfriends. I offended my boss and was completely unemployed. As a result, I developed depression. My mother then went around telling everyone that I had a mental illness, warning them to be careful in case I took a knife and attacked people. Unable to bear the gossip, I jumped off a building and committed suicide. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the leader's home visit. "Linda, how do I look in this dress?" I hope I won't embarrass you, seeing my mother in that familiar red dress. I finally confirmed that I had been reborn, in my previous life. I was just one step away from achieving my goal. The relevant unit sent a leader for a home visit, and my mom volunteered to host. I thought that for such an important life event, my mom would take it seriously and not mess things up. Unexpectedly, as soon as we sat down, my mom started putting me down. I really don't know what you see in this child. She's incredibly lazy, sleeping until noon every day and can't handle any hardship at all. My mom always loves to tell others about how I sleep in. But I never expected her to bring it up on such an important occasion. I quietly tugged at her clothes, trying to remind her not to say anything inappropriate. Unexpectedly, my mom suddenly laughed loudly and pointed out my little gesture. Look, this child is getting upset. You're about to become colleagues with the leader, and even if I don't say it, everyone will eventually find out about your bad habits, she continued, clapping her hands. Leader. My daughter graduated from a prestigious university. At first, when I told her to apply to your unit, she didn't even think much of it. She's always had her head in the clouds, so it's truly our family's great fortune that you're willing to take her. The leaders exchanged glances. They probably had never encountered a parent who spoke about their own daughter like this during a home visit. One of them maintained a smile and said to my mother, Linda Green performed quite well in the interview. Ah, that was all an act. My mother waved her hand dismissively. I know my own daughter well. Don't be fooled by how proper she appears on stage. In private, she's petty and narrow-minded. You probably can't tell, but when she was little, she stole money and cheated on exams. Mom, hearing this, my heart sank, and I called out to her with a stern face. My mother shrugged. All right, the young lady thinks I said the wrong thing again. The outcome of this home visit was naturally far from satisfactory. When it was time to leave, the faces of several leaders had turned dark. Later, when the results were announced, my name was indeed not on the list. I went to inquire and was told that they found my character questionable and unsuitable for working in a state institution. It was then that I realized this home visit had completely blocked my path to entering a state institution. I was furious and went home to have a big argument with my mother. I already told you to watch your words. Why can't you control that mouth of yours? My mother looked particularly innocent. I was only telling the truth. It must be because you didn't give any gifts and upset them. Otherwise, how could they possibly not let you go just because of a few words? I do sleep until noon every day, but that's because I've been preparing for the civil service exam since my sophomore year. And after graduation, I've been studying at home under immense pressure. I finally got in. I want to relax for a few days. I did steal money from home, but that was in middle school. I was being bullied by a classmate. She forced me to give her money, and if I didn't, she would hit me. I tried calling my parents at the time but couldn't get through, so I took the money. These mothers all know that. I broke down crying, scolding her that if she couldn't speak properly, she might as well donate her mouth. The crying drew my brother's displeasure. He came up and slapped me, saying, "How dare you talk to mom like that? Do you have to make such a small matter known to everyone?" Later, my mother used the same method to make me lose my love and my job. In the end, I developed depression, but she told others that I was mentally ill. Everyone avoided me, afraid that I might get angry and attack someone with a knife, unable to bear the overwhelming malice of this world. I jumped from a building on a sunny day. I never expected fate to give me a chance at rebirth. This time, I naturally want to stay far away from my mother. Linda, what are you thinking about? My mother's voice interrupted my train of thought. I sat up straight and let out an exclamation of surprise. Mom, I forgot. Those people aren't coming today. They're not coming. My mother was taken aback. Why? It seems their meeting was postponed. They said they'd come in a couple of days. You should have said so earlier. Mom hurried inside to change out of her dress, then sat down next to me to watch TV. I glanced down at the time. There were still 2 hours until the home visit. I had to find a way to get Mom to leave. A minute passed. I took out my phone and sent a message to my aunt. Within a few minutes, my aunt called my mom, saying they were short one person for mahjong and urging her to come over quickly. My mom is a mahjong fanatic. I answered the phone and immediately got up to leave the house. I took advantage of this time to call my aunt and ask her to come over quickly to help me with the home visit. My aunt works within the system. Knowing the importance of the matter, she immediately put down her work and rushed over as soon as she heard my request. Compared to my mother, my aunt speaks with great precision and leaves no room for misunderstanding. She didn't overly praise me, but she gave a very thorough and well-rounded account of my personality and strengths. It was clear that the leaders were quite satisfied. finally, as we stood up, my aunt and I escorted them to the door. Just when I thought everything was settled, as soon as I opened the door, I came face to face with my mom. Seeing so many people at home, my mom froze for a few seconds. She quickly realized what the people in front of her were there for. She immediately asked, "Are you the leaders here for a home visit? I'm Linda Green's mother." "But you, Mom," afraid that my mother might say something shocking, I called out to her loudly. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I took her hand and led her down the stairs. "Your aunt just called and said she wants you to go play mahjong." My aunt understood immediately and quickly led the leaders into the elevator. Seeing them leave smoothly, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Turning around, I met my mother's gloomy face. "I just came back from your aunt's place. How could she have called me again? Why didn't you let me talk to those people? Why did you lie to me, saying they wouldn't come until a couple of days later?" Faced with her questioning, I was just about to say something, but Mom guessed it, looking hurt. "Do you think I would embarrass you if I showed up, in my past life?" It was because she said this that I softened for a moment and let her prepare for my home visit. That's why it ended up like that in the end. My mom really likes to talk about our family matters with outsiders. She speaks without thinking, saying whatever comes to mind. When I was a child and got first place in my grade, she would tell people outside that I cheated to get it, and that I didn't have the ability to be first at all. This matter spread like wildfire throughout the school. Even though the homeroom teacher later reviewed the surveillance footage and proved my innocence, but after I started middle school, people still often called me "bitch sister." I was really annoyed by this nickname and got into a fight with the girl who called me that. But when we got to school, my mom said I had always been a restless kid, and it was only right for the girl to hit me. After that, I was bullied by that girl for 2 years, until she went back with me to get the money. And after she got it, I called the police. The girl was caught. Her family apologized to me, because her father and my father work in the same unit. My parents forgave the girl on my behalf. My mom also says I'm too serious, like a stubborn mule. After the girl transferred schools and left, my nightmare finally ended. I've argued with my mom countless times because she talks about my business carelessly, but every time, my mom would feel very wronged. Both Dad and my younger brother sided with her, accusing me of being too precious and saying I couldn't take criticism. Today's incident once again hurt Mom's heart. After returning home, she began to shed tears. "Since you think I'm an embarrassment, then don't let me be your mother. Go ask your aunt to be your mother instead." I was so annoyed by the nagging that I blurted out, "If you can't fix this bad habit of talking nonsense, I really don't want you as my mom anymore." My words were heard by my dad, who had just walked in. He quickly walked over and kicked me. "How dare you talk to your mom like that? Everything she does is for you. Now you think she's embarrassing, but where were you when you needed money before?" That kick landed right in my stomach. The pain was so intense that I broke out in a cold sweat instantly. Before I could even speak, my younger brother also chimed in. "Exactly, sis. You're like someone who picks up the bowl to eat and then puts it down to curse the cook. Mom is just like that by nature. Without her temper, how much bullying would our family have to endure?" Mom speaks without thinking. Not only does she do this when talking about my affairs, but she also tends to exaggerate and fabricate stories when discussing others. Because of this, many neighbors keep their distance from our family, fearing that Mom might spin some tale about them. However, Dad and my younger brother see this as a sign of Mom's strong fighting spirit and take pride in it. In my previous life, I often restrained my mother at critical moments for the sake of my father and brother, telling her to keep quiet, since they believe that everything my mother does is for the good of the family. Then I want to see if they can be as magnanimous as they claim when my mother's words are directed at them. I rubbed my stomach for a long time before finally feeling a bit better. I stood up and apologized to my mom. "Mom, I said the wrong thing. Don't worry. I'll let you handle all the important occasions from now on. You always have our best interests at heart, and I won't undermine you again." Hearing my apology, all three of them nodded in satisfaction, especially my dad, who lectured me. "Your mom's words may be harsh, but honest advice is hard to take, yet it benefits your actions. Learn from her way of speaking, so you won't be bullied by your in-laws in the future." I quickly said of course. Dad and my brother went to the kitchen and found that Mom hadn't cooked, so they made arrangements to go out and buy some food. After they left, I apologized to Mom again, saying that I was wrong today. Mom became confident in Dad and my younger brother, and she proudly told me, "I'm telling you, even though your aunt is within the system, her way of speaking isn't as good as mine. If you mess up this civil service exam, you better not regret it." I hummed in agreement. once again praising Mom to the skies. I already regret it, Mom, you're absolutely right. In situations like this, you should be the one to step forward. Mom was so elated she didn't know what to do with herself. If you're really worried, I can go talk to your boss about this. I quickly waved my hands. No need, Mom, you have more important things to prepare for. Isn't Leo going to become a police officer? He'll have a home visit in the next couple of days. So you need to make a good impression. My younger brother has dreamed of being a police officer since he was little. He even got into a police academy for college. After graduating from university this year, I signed up for the police exam as soon as I found out about it. All these years of preparation weren't in vain, and he also made it to the political review stage. After what happened to me in my previous life, I was afraid my brother's long-held dream would be shattered. I did a lot of work to prepare him mentally and managed to keep the home visit a secret. He successfully realized his dream. In this lifetime, I won't stand in the way anymore. I thought that if I didn't stop my mother, she would definitely cause trouble, but I never imagined it would be this big. A few days later, the home visit personnel arrived as scheduled. This home visit is different from my last one. I cannot be present, without my brother's intimidating gaze and with my restraint. My mother completely let herself go. You're not afraid of death, but my son is. When he was little, he was so scared of a mouse that he couldn't even move. I don't know how you chose him. Was there no one else you could pick? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present fell silent. I almost couldn't hold it in. Mom, not sensing the awkward atmosphere, continued, but my Leo really does love being a police officer. He's been fond of guns and cannons since he was little, in middle school. He even made a gun himself. That gun was so powerful it injured someone, nearly hitting them right between the eyes. Afterward, I asked him if he had aimed or if the gun had gone off accidentally. That kid told me, of course I aimed. See, isn't he quite promising? As soon as these words were spoken, the police officers, who had just been speechless, suddenly widened their eyes. Auntie, you must be talking about a toy gun, right? The leader who looked the most poised spoke up, seemingly trying to smooth things over. Unexpectedly, my mom misunderstood and thought he didn't believe her. She immediately stood up, saying, that gun is still here. I'll go get it and show you. My mom walked into the room. I saw several people become alert at the same time, their expressions turning serious. Some even placed their hands on the small of their backs. I moved aside, thinking that if a gun went off accidentally, I better not get hurt. A minute later, my mom came out with that gun. She proudly showed it to the police officers, saying, look, this is what my son assembled. Isn't it amazing? After seeing the actual object, the police officers relaxed their guard. This is the air gun that my brother assembled. Although it's an air gun, it has been modified. A police officer picked it up and examined it carefully, asking with a serious expression, did Leo Green use this gun to injure someone? Even if my mother was a bit clueless, she could sense that the atmosphere was a bit off at that moment. Changed his words, it's not really an injury, just a scrape that broke the skin and bled a little. This still counts as harming someone. The police officer handed the air gun to another person. Where is Leo Green now? My brother had been staying in the small park downstairs the whole time. The police asked Mom to call him. In less than 2 minutes, my brother came upstairs. He thought Mom had performed exceptionally well, and the leader specifically wanted to see him in person, so, as soon as he arrived, he enthusiastically shook hands with the person, saying, hello, Captain, I'm Leo Green. The leader pointed at the air gun. Is this yours? My brother's face turned pale, but he knew he couldn't lie now. It's mine. How was it modified? My brother was about to speak when the leader waved his hand dismissively. Let's go to the police station to talk. The home visit wasn't completed, and my brother was taken away. My mother chased after them, shouting, what are you doing? Why are you taking my son to the police station? This is illegal kidnapping. The leader glanced back at my mother. I immediately understood his meaning, grabbed my mother, and covered her mouth. If you don't want Leo to go to jail, shut up. My mother fell silent. The police quickly got the full story. That air gun was assembled by my younger brother during high school, and it did indeed injure someone at the time. However, it wasn't as my mother described. My brother didn't intentionally aim and shoot at someone. At the time, he had just finished assembling the gun and was showing it off to a classmate. During a struggle over the gun, the classmate accidentally hit their head. Afterwards, our family also compensated, and that classmate chose to forgive. This incident still affected my younger brother. Due to illegal modifications, my younger brother was fined and detained. On the day my younger brother returned, he smashed everything in the house that could be broken. he smashed things while roaring at my mom, "It's all your fault, why can't you control your mouth? If you don't know how to speak, then just don't say anything." "Okay," Mom grew aggrieved again, "I was only telling the truth. And besides, I was doing it for your own good. I just wanted to leave a good impression on your boss." My brother became hysterical. "What kind of good impression is that? Why did you have to bring up my air gun for no reason? I was keeping it as a collector's item. Now I can never become a police officer. Are you satisfied?" After smashing everything, my brother sat on the floor and cried. Years of hard work went up in smoke. I've been through that kind of pain too. Seeing him like this, I felt a secret satisfaction and couldn't resist adding fuel to the fire. "Leo, how can you talk to your mom like that? It's just a job. If you lose it, you can always find another one." These words were always said to me by my younger brother in the past. Now the boomerang has finally come back to hit him. My brother instantly burst into even louder tears. As soon as Dad walked through the door, he saw the mess all over the floor. He was heartbroken to see his younger brother sitting on the ground crying, but he felt even more heartache for my mother. He said to his brother, "This can't be entirely blamed on your mother. How could a housewife know that modifying a gun is illegal? She just wanted to show off your abilities." His brother gasped for breath. "But I won't be able to find a decent job in the future. My brother's university major is too specialized. Now he can't work in his field. And he can't take civil service exams anymore either. The remaining jobs are either in sales or security, making it hard to find anything particularly respectable." Hearing this, Dad chuckled and said, "I'll take care of your job for you." My younger brother was taken aback, unable to believe it. "Really?" "Of course." Dad looked at Mom, who was equally puzzled, and explained the whole story. "Do you remember old Lee from my workplace? He was promoted to section chief 2 years ago. And this year he's set to become a department head." My mom asked, "You mean Alice Lincoln's dad?" Hearing the name Alice Lincoln, I instinctively felt a chill run down my spine. The girl who bullied me in junior high school was named Alice Lincoln. It was only then that I remembered how I had insisted that Alice Lincoln be sent to prison. But because her father promised to convert my father from a temporary worker to a permanent employee, my father forced me to write a letter of forgiveness. Dad said he needed to secure a job for my younger brother. The reason is that he introduced a talented young man to Alice Lincoln as a potential partner. That talented young man is the son of the dean of a major local tertiary hospital. He works in the court system and has a handsome appearance. He is a friend of the son of my dad's friend's uncle. At that time, my dad saw this young man's marriage proposal in his social media circle and sent over Alice Lincoln's photo, unexpectedly. The two of them really took a liking to each other. Now, the two of them are preparing to get engaged. Since my dad acted as the matchmaker, he was naturally invited as well. My dad patted his chest and said to my brother, "I've been working on your matter recently. As soon as those two finish their engagement, you can come work at our company." My dad works for a state-owned enterprise, which offers the best benefits among local companies. Upon hearing this, my brother's gloom, which had been building up for days, instantly vanished. The three of them decided to go out for a celebratory meal, completely disregarding my feelings. I thought my dad had forgotten what Alice Lincoln did to me, which was why he was getting so close to her family. After dinner, Dad suddenly said to me, "Linda, you shouldn't go to Alice's engagement party. You two had a conflict before. And I'm afraid you won't be happy if you go." I frowned. It turns out Dad was well aware of what happened between me and Alice Lincoln. He even thought I might cause trouble at Alice Lincoln's engagement party, so he didn't want me to attend. I suddenly remembered my own engagement party from my past life. After my mother messed up my civil service job opportunity, I managed to get into a foreign company through my own efforts. I had been working there for about half a year when my supervisor introduced me to a potential partner. The guy was outstanding. He had studied abroad, owned a small company, and had won international awards for his design work during university. So when he said he liked me and wanted to get engaged, I was filled with anxiety. Upon hearing about my partner's conditions, my parents didn't hesitate and agreed to the matter. But right at the engagement banquet, when he offered a toast, my mother began to point out my flaws. "Love is truly blind. My Linda is so unattractive, and only you don't mind." It was fine when she said that. Everyone still thought she was being modest, but the next sentence directly ruined my engagement party. "However, don't think my daughter Linda is unattractive. Many boys like her. I don't know how she manages it, but she had one boyfriend after another in college, and quite a few men even fought over her." Hearing this, my partner's face turned pale, and he turned to ask me, "Didn't you say you've never had a boyfriend before?" I was dumbfounded too. From childhood to adulthood, I've had very few members of the opposite sex around me, let alone a boyfriend. I confronted my mom. Mom, what nonsense are you talking? I'm not talking nonsense. You used to bring a guy home every week in college, and you'd stay in your room for hours. Have you forgotten? That was a part-time job I took on, tutoring high school students on weekends. It wasn't all boys, there were girls too, but no matter how I explained, the other person refused to listen any further. After the engagement fell through, I went to settle accounts with my mother. She just spread her hands and said, "How was I supposed to know you were tutoring?" Since then, my reputation has been completely tarnished. Thinking of this, I took a deep breath, exhaled, and smiled at my father. Dad, what you're talking about happened ages ago, on such an important occasion. Let me go too, who knows, I might just meet some truly remarkable people. My dad was also moved by these words. That's right, old Lee's daughter is so ordinary looking and still managed to find such a man. Maybe you can also reel in a wealthy son-in-law for me. But my mom instinctively belittled me. You're still counting on her. She's so ugly. What man would be blind enough to take a liking to her? I told myself not to get angry. If I get sick from anger, I won't be able to watch the show. On the day of Alice Lincoln's engagement, our family of 4 arrived at the restaurant on time. Alice Lincoln was a bit surprised to see me. After all these years, she still remembers the incident where I schemed to have her caught, and on top of that, her father is now my father's superior, so the look she gave me was particularly unfriendly. Even though she didn't like me, today was an important day for her, so she didn't say much. My father is the matchmaker, so we were seated at the main table. My mother was seated right next to the groom's mother. At first, everything went smoothly. Halfway through the meal, my father took my younger brother to toast other leaders from his workplace, hoping to make a good impression in advance. My mother started chatting with the groom's mother. After saying a few words, my mom started to get carried away. Your son is truly handsome, a bit like a movie star, compared to your son. Alice seems a bit unworthy. Hearing these familiar words, my heart, which had been on edge all night, finally settled down. The man's mother felt a bit awkward upon hearing this, but she still saved Alice Lincoln's face, saying, "As long as they like each other, looks and conditions are secondary, you still have to consider character." My mother earnestly told her, Alice is from a good family, but she lacks self-respect. She started dating in middle school and even attempted suicide over some boy. The man's mother's expression changed. Middle school, yes. My mother nodded emphatically. By now, she had completely forgotten the occasion and spoke as if gossiping. I think she even got pregnant. Because of that, Alice Lincoln had to take a break from school for a while. The man's mother could no longer hold back. She slammed the table and called over Alice Lincoln and her partner, who were in the middle of toasting. "We're not getting engaged." As soon as these words were spoken, the scene instantly erupted into chaos, no matter what anyone said. The groom's mother simply refused to agree to the matter and resolutely led her son away. Half an hour later, the groom's family left in a grand procession. Alice Lincoln anxiously chased after them. My mother also realized the seriousness of the situation at this point and wanted to sneak our family away. Just as we reached the door, Alice Lincoln came back crying. Seeing my mother, she immediately went up and grabbed her hair. "It's you. Why are you making up stories about me? What exactly are you scheming?" Just now outside, the man's mother, seeing Alice Lincoln crying uncontrollably, told her what my mother had said. My mother was being pulled and wailed. "I'm telling the truth. Who doesn't know about you dating in middle school? How dare you say I'm pregnant?" My mother was in so much pain that tears welled up in her eyes. "Aren't you pregnant? I only heard about it. And I never told her you were definitely pregnant." The two of them went back and forth. And soon everyone around them knew what had happened. My father's face instantly darkened. Even darker was Alice Lincoln's father's expression. He glanced at my father and asked, "Honey, what on earth is going on here?" "I'm sorry, Director, my wife doesn't know how to speak properly. I don't think she meant it on purpose. If she doesn't know how to speak, then you shouldn't bring her out." As she spoke, Alice Lincoln became even more frenzied. She slapped my mother several times in a row, causing her to cry out in pain. "I knew your family was up to no good. Damn it, my boyfriend is breaking up with me, and your whole family is going to pay for it." Alice Lincoln was still the same little troublemaker from middle school. Spewing out a string of curses, she vented all her anger on my mom, until my dad couldn't stand it anymore and stepped in to separate the two of them. But even so, the matter was completely over. Half a month later, Alice Lincoln's father was promoted to section chief. My father was fired due to a small mistake at work. On the day he was dismissed, my father drank a lot. After coming back, he pointed at my mother's nose and scolded, "Do you even have a brain? What were you talking about in that kind of situation? Do you know that because of this, I got fired, and Leo's job is also gone? What are we going to eat and drink from now on?" From as far back as I can remember, my mother has never had a job. Dad getting fired meant the family's source of income was cut off. Mom started crying on the side. I didn't realize this matter was so serious. I just couldn't control my mouth for a moment. Maybe I should go and apologize to them. Do you think an apology is useful? It was the first time I saw a look of despair in my father's eyes as he looked at my mother. I spoke up for my mother. "Dad, you can't blame Mom entirely for this. If Alice Lincoln hadn't done those things, why would everyone spread rumors?" Hearing my voice, my father shifted his gaze to me and pointed his finger in my direction. "It was you, wasn't it?" I blinked. "What? It must have been you who egged your mother on." Dad suddenly shifted all the blame onto me. "I was wondering why you were being so kind, wanting to attend Alice Lincoln's engagement party. Turns out it was to pull off such a dirty trick." The more Dad spoke, the angrier he became, raising his hand as if to slap me, but he had drunk too much and was staggering as he walked. I dodged to the side, stuck out my foot, and he fell face first to the ground. He let out a pained, "Ouch." I sneered, "You blame everything on me. But don't you know how foul-mouthed your own wife is?" As soon as I finished speaking, my brother, hearing the commotion, ran out of his bedroom. Seeing Dad lying on the ground and Mom crying, he pointed at me and scolded, "Linda Green, are you crazy? Why are you bullying Mom and Dad?" I yelled at him, "Are you fucking deaf? They were the ones bullying me." The room wasn't soundproof, so my brother must have heard the conversation between me and my parents. He frowned and said, "What's wrong with Mom and Dad saying a few words to you? They've fed you and provided for you. They've already fulfilled their parental duties. You're still living at home, contributing nothing, and you can't even take a few words of criticism. He acts all grown up. Who do you think is still spending their money?" I started doing part-time jobs in college, and even when I was preparing for exams after graduation, I used my own scholarship money. It's you who hasn't contributed anything to the family and is still mooching off our parents. I didn't hesitate to tear down his facade. As soon as I said that, my brother flew into a rage. "Well, aren't you still living at home? That's mooching too. If you've got the guts, why don't you move out?" "All right," I agreed directly. "If you don't want me to stay, then I won't. I never intended to continue living at home anyway. After all, there's nothing worth holding on to in this house." It was already late, but we still went back to our rooms and packed our things. When I left, several people didn't even glance at me. My mother sneered from the side, "You haven't even achieved anything yet, and you're already disowning your parents. Even an animal wouldn't do such a thing." I ignored her and strode away. Half a month later, I received a call from my mother. She said my dad had broken his leg and asked me to go to the hospital to take over her shift in caring for him. I didn't find out until I arrived at the hospital. After losing his job, my dad had to work on a construction site to make ends meet, but having spent so much time in an office, he was unfamiliar with the work on the construction site. 2 days ago, he fell off a shelf. My younger brother just started a job as a bodyguard recently and couldn't get away, so only my mom could take care of him. Taking care of him day and night, my mom's back injury flared up, and she thought of me. "Since you don't have a job anyway, just take care of your dad for a few days," my mom said matter-of-factly. I said, "I'm also doing part-time work now. With my dad like this, isn't the construction site going to compensate?" Strangely, after saying this, my mother's face turned red. Upon further inquiry, I learned that the construction site had originally intended to compensate, but when they came to discuss it, my mother revealed that my father had been operating in violation of regulations. Now they are only willing to pay a small humanitarian medical fee and are unwilling to compensate. This outcome was also within expectations. "I still don't want to stay here," my father said angrily. "I always knew raising a daughter was useless. I should have given you away back then." I nodded. "If raising a son is so useful, then why isn't your son here taking care of you?" "Ever since I was little, my dad has always favored boys over girls. He would buy anything my brother wanted, but he would ignore whatever I asked for. Even after I experienced bullying at school and the police advised them to pay attention to my mental health, they still didn't take it seriously." Dad was so angry with me that his eyes widened, and he pointed at me, stammering, You. Just then, the doctor came over. The doctor came to our family and said that a cancer patient would be arriving in the ward soon. It was an elderly lady. The elderly woman fell while doing farm work, and upon examination, it was discovered that her bones were filled with cancer cells. The family didn't want her to know, so she was placed in a regular ward. The doctor told us not to speak carelessly and to be mindful of our words. My mother agreed without hesitation. I could tell from her expression that something was about to go wrong. No matter how much my father tried to guilt-trip me, I didn't stay at the hospital. That night, just as I was about to go to bed, I received a call from the police. The police told me that my father had been beaten to death. After arriving at the police station, I finally understood. Less than an hour after the old lady moved in, my mother told her about her cancer. The old lady couldn't handle it right away and had a heart attack. The family members immediately became furious. It just so happened that among the family members, there was an extremely irritable person who walked in with a brick in hand to confront my mother. My father, who has always doted on my mother, stepped forward at that moment. As it turned out, this person was too bold and didn't know how to hold back. Swinging the brick down, my father had just broken his leg, so something happened. When I saw my mom, she was sitting there as if she had lost her soul, her face pale. When she saw me, she started crying. She cried while slapping her own face. It's all my fault for speaking carelessly. I really didn't expect that old lady to be unable to handle such a small matter. She slapped her own face repeatedly. Her younger brother leaned against the wall, looking up at the sky. He wore an expression of helplessness and despair. The man who killed my father was sentenced. After handling my father's funeral arrangements, I completely cut off contact with my mother. My younger brother also chose to leave home. Half a month later, the list of successful candidates for the civil service exam was announced, and I was on it. My name appeared on that piece of paper. At this moment, the weight in my heart finally lifted. It was already a year later when I saw my mother again. In fact, during this year, my mother often called me. She wanted me to go home to visit, but I always brushed it off. She also came to my workplace, and I always made excuses about being on a business trip. I also knew that after my father passed away, my brother left home, and my mother had to go out to work to make a living, but she had no work ability or experience, so the only jobs she could do were as a nanny or cleaner. I have no idea what kind of dog luck my mom had, but in her first job as a nanny, her employer turned out to be a minor celebrity. The minor celebrity rarely came home, and the only requirement was for my mom to take good care of the dog and keep the house clean, but she didn't know my mom's personality. After my mom started working as a nanny for the minor celebrity, she began spreading the celebrity's privacy everywhere. It just so happened that a paparazzo was staking out a celebrity for gossip and ran into mom in the neighborhood. With just a few words, he managed to coax the information out of mom. Not only did the paparazzo post the story online, but to prove its authenticity, he also uploaded a video of mom's face. This incident had a huge impact on the celebrity. The little star sued both her mother and the paparazzi, determined to have her mother sent to prison. So when I saw my mother again, it was in the detention center. She cried and begged me to get her out. I spread my hands, indicating that I was powerless to help. What do you mean by that? Actually, you just don't want to help, right? Don't you work for a state institution? You must know someone at the police station. I suddenly felt very grateful that mom had been arrested. Otherwise, with these words, my job would have been at risk. Looking at mom, I spoke coldly. Mom, haven't you realized your mistake yet? Mom frowned. What do you mean? I said. Do you believe in karma? Mom grew anxious. You're being sarcastic with me. I'm your mother. Is this how you should treat me? Only because you're my mother have I endured you this long, I sneered. Why are you still so detestable? You destroyed my brother's dreams, and Dad died because of that mouth of yours. Why can't you control it? Mom's face turned pale, but she still insisted stubbornly. What's the use of saying all this now? Useless. I just wanted to give you a heads up, I said, enunciating each word clearly. You deserve it. I got up and left. Mom was still shouting wildly. What good does it do you to get me involved? I'm carrying a crime on my back, and you'll never get promoted or make a fortune in this lifetime. She was right about that. Having parents who commit crimes does have an impact on my position. Fortunately, I have no desire to climb the ladder. All I want in this life is to lie flat and be a happy little office worker. In the end, my mother was sentenced to 3 years in prison. She didn't have an easy time in prison either, because of her sharp tongue. She got beaten up quite a bit. She often wrote to me, asking me to save her. 3 years later, when she was released from prison, her mind had already become unstable. At the hospital, the doctor told me she had developed schizophrenia. I had no choice but to arrange for her to be admitted to a mental institution, with no intention of ever letting her out again. However, the monthly expenses are also a significant burden, so I had no choice but to ask my brother for money. After Mom's accident, I had long since cut off contact with my brother, unexpectedly. Before I could even reach out to my brother, someone contacted me. My brother, who worked as a bodyguard for a wealthy man, was involved in a car accident. During the car accident, he instinctively protected the beautiful boss beside him. His younger brother died as a result. The beautiful boss was deeply saddened and gave the younger brother's family, which is me, 10 million in compensation. Looking at all those zeros in the bank account, I almost burst out laughing. Great. Now Mom's medical expenses are taken care of. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.